Hey everyone, Sky here to discuss X-Men First Class, starring James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, Jennifer Lawrence, Rose Byrne, January Jones, Oliver Platt, and Kevin Bacon, and directed by Matthew Vaughn. The director I've reviewed before in Kingsman and Kick-Ass, might I add. The first Kick-Ass, let me rephrase. But I did see this in theaters, and what do I think of it then versus now? Let's think about this. Let's get into it. We start like the first X-Men film in Poland, 1944, with Eric Lensher's parents leave without him, and he forces the gate open. Then we see Eric's mother was shot by Sebastian Shaw, played by Kevin Bacon, who's terrific as a villain. And now, how did Sebastian shoot his mother? Well, Sebastian makes Eric crush the bell, but doesn't succeed, so that's how that's how he shot her. And I love the way that kid who plays young Eric screams and crushes everything and saying, "Nine!" which is German for no. We'll find out more about that when we get to Inglourious Bastards, but which was done much better than last week in Wolverine Origins. Then in Westchester, New York, taking place the same year, and a young Charles Xavier meets a young Raven / Mystique, which did freak me out when I first saw the movie. And I love the relationship between Charles and Raven as they become adults in the movie. Years later, in 1962, an adult Eric Lensher, played by Michael Fassbender, who I reviewed a couple of times before. And I will be reviewing again in a couple more times with Danny Boyle's take on this guy. And in Quentin Tarantino's film. Both of them I'm planning on reviewing over the summer. And has a grudge on Shaw and wants revenge on him killing his mother in 1944. Despite how much I hate the action movie cliche I discussed last week, but this story is much better than in Wolverine Origins. Charles, as an adult, played by James McAvoy, offers to and buys a drink for a lady, plus an adult Raven, played by Jennifer Lawrence from this franchise. And I really like Jennifer Lawrence as an actress in such movies as these. She pulls off Mystique quite well and has the look of a young Rebecca Romijn. And she gets jealous of Charles hitting on the girls and says mutant and proud. And James McAvoy is such a great actor. After these two movies I reviewed about months ago. And I'm reviewing him again in Danny Boyle's. And I really like his take on Charles Xavier. We move on to Las Vegas with Moira McTaggart, played by Rose Byrne, whom I reviewed in the first two of these movies. And I also like her take on Moira McTaggart, but the character I just do not like in this role is January Jones as Emma Frost. And I loved her in this movie, but her acting here is awful in this movie. And I can't stand this character because she's so bad, and and Shaw's assistants are Azazel, who looks like a demon with some wind guy. I can't place his name, but for the best, because they're worthless characters. But the worst of the team is Emma Frost, because one more time she's bad in this movie, the actress I mean. Moira finds Charles in a bar and heard his presentation at this point, and she asks him for help at the CIA. Meanwhile, Sebastian kills the colonel on his yacht, and the effects with the grenade explosion on his hand was good effects, while Charles, Moira, and Raven show mutants are real, and Oliver Platt, who I haven't seen since the early 2000s, and here he's put in as a background character, and I've always enjoyed Oliver Platt in general. Here's another. Here's another. Here's another. Here's a nothing. He's a nothing part. Eric tries to kill Shaw on his yacht, but Emma knocks him off the yacht until the CIA with Charles and Moira on a ship with, and Emma blocks Charles's mind, but he senses Eric is in the water while trying to hang on to a submarine and saves his life. And I'm like, the frenemy relationship, because it's the heart of these movies. The CIA guy brings Charles, Eric, Moira, and Raven meet Hank McCoy, played by Nicholas Hoult, who I reviewed before in this movie. And I like seeing him in movies, from this one when he was younger to a movie I really like him in this one. And I like this actor quite a bit, and I will be reviewing him again in this movie in a couple of weeks. Charles and Eric recruit some mutants by Cerebo, for example, a waitress stripper with rings named Angel, played by Zoe Kravitz, an African-American man, Darwin, with a power to look like a fish or something, Alex Summers, who's Cyclops' brother, and we'll see him in a later movie, and a loud kid with powers of screaming, and that makes him fly, named Banshee. And I love the cameo by Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. But he says no, but I like this team without Darwin and Angel, because Sebastian takes Angel and kills Darwin, which for the best. Meanwhile, Emma meets with the Russian president, and Charles and Eric capture Emma, and she tells about World War III getting started by Shaw, and they take her to the CIA because she's nuts, along with Shaw. That scene was badly acted by January Jones, but better acted by McAvoy and Fassbender, might I add. Defenseless, Charles and Eric take Moira, Alex, Banshee, Hank, and Raven and to the mansion Raven and Charles lived at earlier in the film, in Westchester. And they train to become heroes of their own to control their powers, and I'm really liking this sequence. It's working for me quite well. Hank turns into a beast, and that's what they call for the rest of the movie. They fight the Americans versus Russians in Cuba, and that entire action sequence was fun. It was a fun, good time. From flying Banshee versus Angel, and on the ground, Beast versus Azazel. And they land on the beach with Eric versus Shaw, where Eric has his coin and puts it through his skull. And kills Shaw with Eric. And Eric wears the dorky looking helmet that Shaw gets from the Russians earlier off screen as a gift, and decides the mutants are the future and wants them all to join him. And Moira shoots him, and Eric, using his magnetic powers to cripple Charles and Raven, decides to go with Eric and says goodbye to her X-Men friends, including Hank, who she had a romantic relationship earlier with. Charles gets on a wheelchair and makes Moira forget about them, and Eric gets Emma out of captivity and calls himself Magneto. I like this ending, despite how sad it is, but that's a great start to a new X-Men team. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 8.6 out of 10. This is so far the best X-Men movie story and casted except for January Jones, and I really like the characters and the action sequence at the end of the movie. Maybe the greatest X-Men movie yet to date. And I will be back next week with The Wolverine. Not the one that I reviewed last week, but the one where he goes to Japan. And until next time,